My mother-in-law arranged a dinner at an exclusive restaurant, but when I arrived, there was no seat reserved for me. She smirked. Maybe a budget place suits you better. I burst out laughing and asked the owner for a seat, because the owner was, well, let me start from the beginning. My name is Chloe, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law's petty game blew up in her face in the most public way possible. It wasn't just about a missing chair. It was about years of subtle digs, backhanded compliments, and her never believing I was good enough for her precious son. That night, she went too far. She tried to humiliate me in front of the whole family. But she forgot one crucial thing about me: I never fight fair when someone attacks my dignity. I married Daniel 5 years ago. He's kind, successful, and genuinely loves me. The problem is his mother, Eleanor. She's a social climber from old money, or at least that's the image she works tirelessly to project. Daniel is her only child, her golden son who could do no wrong until he married me. I'm a graphic designer from a middle-class family who believes in earning my own way. To Eleanor, I'm a stain on her perfect family portrait. For years, I bit my tongue at her comments about my clothes, my career, even the way I season food. I did it for Daniel. But everyone has a breaking point. The trouble started with a group text. Eleanor announced a family celebration dinner at Le Jardin Blanc, the most exclusive and impossible-to-book restaurant in the city. It was to honor Daniel's recent promotion. Wear something appropriate, she added, which everyone knew was directed at me. Daniel was thrilled. See, she's trying to include you, he said. I wanted to believe him. I spent a week's paycheck on a simple but elegant black dress. I was nervous but determined to get through one nice evening without drama. The night arrived. Le Jardin Blanc was all soft lighting, white linen, and quiet clinking crystal. You could feel the money in the air. Eleanor was holding court at the head of a long table, surrounded by Daniel's aunts, uncles, and a few cousins I barely knew. Everyone was already seated. There were no empty chairs. Daniel pulled one over from a nearby table, but a waiter quickly swooped in. I'm sorry, sir, all seating is pre-arranged and reserved. That's when Eleanor looked up, a sweet, poisonous smile on her face. Oh, Chloe, you're here, Eleanor said, her voice dripping with fake concern. The table went quiet. I must have miscounted the reservations. These places are so strict with their seating policies. She let the pause hang in the air, every pair of eyes on me. Then she delivered the line she'd clearly practiced. Don't worry, dear, I'm sure there's a lovely, budget-friendly place down the street that could fit you in. Maybe a diner? A few relatives stifled laughs. Daniel looked stunned. My face burned, but then something clicked inside me. The absurdity of it all. Instead of tears or anger, a genuine laugh bubbled out of me. It wasn't hysterical, it was calm, clear, and it echoed in the hushed dining room. Eleanor's smirk faltered. You find this funny? She asked, confused. I find it predictable, Eleanor, I said, shaking my head. I then turned away from the table. I didn't head for the door. I walked calmly toward the maitre d' stand, where a distinguished-looking man in a tailored suit was reviewing a reservation book. All eyes from our table and several others followed me. Excuse me, I said to the man. His name was Anton, the maitre d'. He looked up, professionalism masking his curiosity about the scene. How can I assist you, madam? I took a breath. I was wondering if I could speak with the owner, please. Is he available? Anton's eyebrow lifted slightly. The owner is quite busy, but may I ask what this is regarding? From behind me, I heard Eleanor's loud whisper. She's causing a scene, how embarrassing. I kept my eyes on Anton. Just tell him Chloe is here, Chloe Miller. Anton's expression changed. The professional mask slipped into one of surprise, then recognition. He'd heard the name before. He gave a swift nod. One moment, please. He disappeared through a discreet door. The silence at our table was now complete. Daniel had stood up. Chloe, what are you doing? He asked, his voice low. I just smiled at him. A minute later, the kitchen doors swung open. A big man with a salt and pepper beard and a chef's coat, stained with the evening's work, burst out. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me. A wide grin split his face. Chloe Bear, he boomed, his voice warm and familiar. He strode across the restaurant, ignoring the fancy atmosphere, and wrapped me in a giant hug that smelled of garlic and rosemary. I hugged him back tight. Over his shoulder, I could see Eleanor's jaw had gone slack. The entire family was frozen in confusion. I pulled back. Hi, Uncle Tony, I said. Tony, Big Tony Miller, the owner and head chef of Le Jardin Blanc, beamed at me. What are you doing standin' in the doorway? Where's your seat? I gestured vaguely toward the packed table. There seems to have been a reservation mix-up. My husband's family is celebrating, but there's no place for me. Tony's smile vanished. He looked from me to the table where Alina was now shrinking in her seat. His eyes, usually twinkling, turned hard. "Is that so?" he said, his voice losing its warmth. He put a massive arm around my shoulders. "Well, that's an easy fix. Anton," he called. "Clear the private tasting room. My niece is having dinner tonight and she's bringing her husband." He looked at Daniel. "You must be Daniel. Come on, son." The floor seemed to drop from under Alina. "Niece," she squeaked. Tony looked at her. "My baby sister's daughter, the one I helped put through design school." He said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. He'd never taken her last name for the business, preferring Tony's originally before the fancy rebrand. I'd kept our connection quiet, tired of people liking me for my uncle's fame. Daniel, bless him, walked over to me without a second's hesitation, leaving his mother's table behind. Anton whisked us through the restaurant, past the stunned stares of my in-laws, to a beautiful, secluded room with a single, elegant table set for two. A bottle of champagne was already chilling. "Your menu will be the chef's tasting, with wine pairings, of course," Anton said, pulling out my chair. Tony squeezed my shoulder. "I'll send out the good stuff. You two enjoy." He left, and Daniel and I were alone in the quiet, luxurious room. Daniel reached for my hand the second we sat down. "Chloe, I am so sorry. I had no idea she would do that. I'm mortified." He looked it. "Why didn't you ever tell me Tony was your uncle?" I sighed. "At first, I wanted to be loved for me, not for my connection to a famous chef. Then, as things got worse with your mom, I kept it as my one piece of quiet power. I guess I was saving it for a special occasion." He shook his head, a slow smile spreading. This was definitely a special occasion. The food began to arrive. Not the standard tasting menu, but Tony's greatest hits, dishes named after family members, recipes he'd perfected over decades. The first course was Chloe's favorite, wild mushroom arancini from when I was 10. With each plate, Anton explained its significance, loudly enough that curious servers lingering at the door could hear. Word was traveling back to the main dining room. We were eating a meal of love and history, while they ate a menu of mere expense. Near the end of our meal, Anton entered with a knowing look. "A small disturbance, Miss Chloe. Your party in the main dining room has requested their check. Mr. Tony has instructed that it be comped with his compliments." I almost choked on my wine. "He can't do that, it's a huge bill." Anton's smile was sharp. "He is the owner, he insists. He also said to tell you that family doesn't pay, and neither do their rude guests." Daniel and I exchanged a look. This was Tony's final, masterful move. Comping the check was the ultimate power play. It robbed Alina of her chance to be the generous matriarch footing the bill. It turned her lavish celebration into a charity case, a pity meal from the very person she'd tried to demean. It was a luxury slap in the face. We learned later from a cousin that Alina had tried to argue to pay, but was politely and firmly told the matter was settled by the owner. She had to accept his charity. When Daniel and I finally left the private room, feeling wonderfully full and a little tipsy, the main dining room was empty except for staff. Our family had left. We walked out the front door where Tony was having a smoke. He hugged me again. "You okay, kid?" I nodded into his chef's coat. "Thank you, Uncle Tony." He waved a hand. "Anytime. That woman, she's got a cold heart. You keep warm with the people who matter." The silence in our own home that night was heavy, but not with anger, with realization. Daniel was furious with his mother, truly seeing her cruelty for the first time. My phone buzzed once. A text from Alina. "That was a cheap stunt, humiliating your family." I didn't reply. I showed Daniel. He took my phone, typed, "The only one who humiliated this family tonight was you," and hit send. Then he blocked her number for both of us. Elephant in the room doesn't begin to describe it. Alina, through other relatives, tried to act like nothing happened, but the story had spread like wildfire. She became a cautionary tale in their social circle, the woman who insulted the owner's niece. Meanwhile, Daniel and I grew closer. He started therapy to untangle years of guilt and obligation. I felt lighter, freer, having finally used my secret weapon. A month later, a handwritten note arrived from Alina, unblocked for the purpose. It was not an apology, it was a negotiation. "We should move past this unpleasantness for Daniel's sake. Let's have lunch, my treat." Daniel read it and laughed, a bitter sound. "Her treat? At what diner?" I wrote back a simple note. "We are happy. We'll reach out when and if we're ready. Please respect our space." That note was our declaration of independence. We didn't attend the next family gathering. When calls came, Daniel was calm but firm. "Until Mom offers a real public apology to Chloe, we won't be there." It caused an earthquake. Some relatives sided with Alina, calling us disrespectful. Others, who'd also suffered her barbs privately, quietly cheered us on. The family dynamic was forever changed. Interestingly, my business boomed. Uncle Tony, in his loud, proud way, had posted a picture of us from that night on the restaurant's social media. Proudest uncle moment, hosting my brilliant niece, the designer? He tagged my small firm. Suddenly, I had inquiries from people who wanted to work with the chef's niece, but they stayed for my portfolio. I hired an assistant. It took 6 months. Elinor showed up at our door on a Sunday afternoon alone. She looked older. "May I come in?" she asked, her voice small. We let her. She didn't sit. She looked at me, and for the first time there was no mask. "I was jealous," she said plainly. "Daniel loved you more than he needed me. I tried to make you small so I could feel big. It was vile. I am truly sorry." It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Daniel cried. We didn't become best friends. That trust was gone. But we started having occasional, quiet dinners at our house. She was polite, careful. She asked about my work and actually listened. She never mentioned Le Jardin Blanc again. The power balance had permanently shifted. Respect was no longer something I pleaded for. It was the minimum requirement for her to be in our lives. Sometimes, Daniel and I still go to Le Jardin Blanc for date night. We always get the best table. Tony always comes out, gives me a hug, and calls me Chloe Bear. One night, as we were leaving, I saw Elinor across the street, getting into a car after dinner at a much more ordinary bistro. She saw us, saw Tony waving from the doorway. She didn't scowl or look away. She gave a small, awkward nod. I nodded back. Then I took my husband's hand, got into our car, and drove home. The laugh wasn't about winning anymore. It was about finally being free. I had my seat at the table in the restaurant, in my marriage, and in my own life, and no one could ever take it away again.